Hello and welcome to Piano Shack with me, Woody. I'm in the market for a new Groovebox. I've been looking pretty much ever since I sold my beloved ELECTRIBE. I'm going to tell you today a little bit about my research, my thought process, and hopefully some of you that own the hardware that I'm interested in can help me choose what should be my next Groovebox. Well, I'd love to have again a Groovebox that I can just sit on the couch and make some tunes with. Yes, I know it's a bit of a cliche, but it's something I've missed ever since I let my ELECTRIBE go, and I think I made some pretty decent music with that ELECTRIBE, so go and check out my previous videos if you're curious about that. But yeah, something I can just groove with, make some patterns with, have some fun with, without needing to hook up to a computer. Yes, it's the DAWless thing. Without a computer, another cliche I know. Another thing is that I like to have a powerful MIDI sequencer that I can use to control my hardware synthesizers. Yes, as you may know, I have a Nautilus, a Modi X, something also coming in from Roland, perhaps for a review, and they have built-in sequencers of their own. But then I would need to learn each sequencer on each synthesizer, which is a bit too much for me. And as you may know as well, if you own any of those instruments, the workflow can be a little bit cumbersome with the sequencers on the synthesizers. So I'd like to have one hardware MIDI sequencer that I can use to rule them all. And a bit of a dream of mine perhaps, but I'd love to build up a rig that I can do some live performances with in the future. It has to be a standalone device. I want to be able to make music without being tethered to the computer. Yes, it's the DAWless thing, D-A-W-less. Okay, it has to support both synthesis engines. I want to have an interesting synth engine that I can manipulate with, play live, and I also want it to support samples for drum beats, grooves, and so on. There are many Grooveboxes that do one or the other, but I want both combined in the same device. Not too much to ask for, I think. It goes without saying really, but it has to have excellent sounds, a good wide variety of samples, and interesting synthesizer engines. Yes, it has to have several tracks for sequencing of external hardware MIDI gear. Has to have loads of buttons, knobs and faders for easy real-time control, manipulation of the sound of the synthesizers or the samples, triggering patterns, clips and scenes and so on. Really super important to me, and this is something that is often a little bit lacking on the synthesizer sequencers, which is why I'm wanting to go to an external sequencer. Battery power would be a huge bonus for me, so I don't need to tether it to the wall wart. It seems to me like the whole purpose of a portable Groovebox is somewhat defeated if you need to plug in to the mains network. Another bonus, ideally, I'd like to have a robust metal enclosure for a more satisfying feeling when you're actually using it. Another super important thing, of course, is a fast, intuitive workflow. For example, I make lots of blunders when I'm recording my music, so I need fast undo, perhaps redo, clear the last take, quickly delete a pattern and start over without being nagged with confirmation prompts and having to do menu diving to do those really simple things. Very, very important. I refused to buy anything that has a pattern limit of just 4 measures. Yes, I like to make 4-bar loops as well, but I really like to have the possibility to make longer loops. 8 bars, 16 bars, or why not completely unlimited until you press stop recording. Yes, I'd also like to see features that we've got used to in ABLETON and clip-based sequences as well. I'd like to have different patterns of different lengths that play together and just loop seamlessly with each other. If you wanted, say, a 1-bar drum pattern that was looping together with an 8-bar chord progression. That's really important. And also, I don't really want to have to choose how many measures I want a pattern to be before I record. That seems also like a no-brainer in 2023. I'm sure many of you can relate to these points. Finally, the price point I'm expecting to pay for this is around the $1,000 mark, perhaps up to about $1,500, but I don't really want to pay more over that. Okay, let's discuss some of the candidates here and discount some of them directly and narrow it down to a shortlist. The first one I see on my list is the newly released Ableton Push Standalone, a very interesting device that does tick all of the boxes. I think it runs all of the Ableton synths, so that's a very nice FM synthesizer. They have their virtual analog synth, I forget what they call that thing now, perhaps just analog. Yes, an operator is the name of the FM one. Superb sounding synth. It does all the sampling things you could ever ask for. That is very interesting to me. Even runs on batteries, very solid construction, but a little bit over my budget. That one coming in at over $2,000, I think. So for now, I'll pass on that one, but could be something interesting for the future when second-hand units begin to appear on the market. Then we have these very popular ELEKTRON grooveboxes, the DIGITAKT, the DIGITONE and all that kind of thing. Now they are interesting. I've always been curious to try one. The build quality seems to be superb. The workflow is very nice. They're super complicated, by the way, though, but they always seem to be somewhat frustratingly limited. For example, you have to buy one box that does the sampling stuff, the DIGITAKT, another box, the DIGITONE for the synthesizer engines, and there's strange limitations on them, like for the sampling device, you can't import stereo samples. It has to be, or it's converted to mono, which is, wow, why? And then the synthesizer engine is pretty much only monophonic with some strange chord mode. They're kind of expensive for what they are, I think. So I love the ELEKTRON stuff from what I've seen on YouTube, and I know there's many fans out there, but it's not for me this time. But do feel free to correct me in the comments, you ELEKTRON fanboys and girls. Okay, I've already featured these on the channel, so that's probably a reason not to buy another one, but, well, in fact, I borrowed the Roland MC 101 and the bigger version, the 707, I think it was called. Both of those tick a lot of the boxes, actually. They support sampling and they support the synthesis engine capability, because they've got the beautiful Zen Core engine built in with the sounds that are right up my street. Fabulous boxes, those, but I've already covered them. And also, I wasn't so enthused, is that a correct word? I think so. Wasn't so enthused with the workflow either. A little bit clunky and cumbersome and slow, although that could have been my fault as much as the machine's. But we're going to pass on the MC 101 and MC 707 for now, even though I love the sound of those devices. Another newly released device that's really interesting to me, and I'd love to get one in for a demo and review, but I don't think it ticks all the boxes for my criteria, is the Roland SH4D. It's got a slimmed down version of the Zen Core engine. Sounds absolutely wonderful. Again, does all the sounds that I like. It's got drum sounds as well and all of Roland's legacy drum kits built in. But I don't think it ticks all the boxes of being a sampler as well, and the sequencing of external MIDI gear, I don't think it really does very well either. It's only 4 or 5 tracks. So I'm going to pass on the 4D, but I'd love to get one in for a separate project. Native Instruments have their Maschine Plus, which they released a couple of years ago. It's a standalone version of the Maschine. It runs the Maschine software. Is it Maschine or Maschine? Please do let me know. But this is a super interesting device, which I think ticks all of the boxes, except one. It's not powered by batteries, unfortunately, so you have to plug it into the wall, but I think otherwise it meets all of the criteria. So the Maschine Plus is going to make it to my final shortlist. Another fairly relatively released groovebox is the MPC One and the new MPC One Plus. Again, this particular groovebox ticks all of the boxes as well. I don't think the One Plus is battery powered. There's an MPC Live that is, but a bit more expensive. But yep, this is another candidate for my shortlist. It ticks pretty much all of the boxes. Yeah, so that was my list of candidates. Probably a few things I've missed, but those are the devices that I've been considering in my research for my new groovebox. Let's move on and take a closer look at the shortlist containing the MPC One Plus and the Maschine Plus. Why do these devices always end with a plus? Okay, well, if you don't mind, I'll just point the camera at the screen so I can gesticulate and point at stuff. So this is AKAI Pro MPC One Plus. Yes, this lady living the dream on her couch with her MPC there, although this one doesn't run on batteries as far as I know, so you'll have to plug it into the mains anyway, but no big deal. Look at that nice view, I can't match that. Actually, smaller pads here than what you get on the Maschine Plus or the other AKAI models. These are kind of more mini pads, but still velocity sensitive. A big touchscreen, one large big touchscreen. From what I gather on YouTube, this one does support nice modern multi-touch gestures. I'm using my mouse to point, let's use my hand. So there's your big screen, just 4 encoders here. You'll see 8 on the Maschine Plus in a minute, but almost an equal number of buttons, I think, so that looks pretty nice. So this is the interesting stuff then, a free plugin voucher. Yes, okay, unlike Maschine, these are not included. These are all the really interesting plugin instruments that you can purchase and load onto your MPC to give you more than just a sampler. This is super interesting to me. That is your Air Jura, which, as you might be able to see, is a Juno emulation, OPX4, 4-operator FM synth. That's great. We have an organ here with the drawbars, stage piano EP, a nice grand piano there I can see as well, studio strings, Mini D, that's obviously a Mini Moog, Flavor Pro, this is your basic rompler sounds, I do believe. Standalone production and performance instrument, that's interesting. Sorry if I was doing a disservice by calling it a groovebox. Price €1,200, that's about $1,200. Larger pads, which is nice to have, I think, than the mini pads on the MPC. 8 encoders instead of 4. The button count also I'm seeing looks higher here. You get a nice touch strip as well. The 4-dimensional click, jog wheel, joystick thing as well there. In contrast to the MPC, we have 2 screens here. Neither of these are touch screens. They have soft controls above and below. This one has a metal enclosure as well, I've read, which is a bonus. Included, you get 18 instruments, 37 effects, and thousands of sounds on board. Yes, Native Instruments include all of this stuff. You can see here, flashing on the screen, Maschine, Massive, Monarch, Prism, Reactor, Retro Machines, FM8, these are legendary Native Instruments synthesizers. Yes, albeit a little bit long in the tooth, but they still sound fantastic and they are included here, and that just makes it above and beyond what you would expect to get from a typical groovebox, I think. That's just, oh. So you get the Maschine Plus selection, which is their sample library, basically. A whole bunch of drum sounds. The plugins that you get included, Massive, needs no introduction, FM8, also very highly regarded FM synthesizer. Prism, you don't hear so much about. Monarch is a Mini Moog. Recreation and Reactor, of course, hosting a number of other virtual instruments. I've done demonstrations of Reactor on the channel in the past. Kontakt as well, although you don't get the full Kontakt library, you just get this factory selection. I think something they call Retro Machines as well, which is a sample library of vintage analog synths and drum machines, which sounds right up my street. Here are some of the effects you get. Raum, Phasis, plus a whole bunch of other, and the expansions are interesting. You get, let's see, 6, 8 included, and a voucher to purchase 2 more of your choice. So that seems like a pretty generous deal to me. Oh, it goes on, you get drum synths as well. I think the MPC has something similar. You get Polysynth, which I happen to know is based on Pro 53. If you ever wondered where that Prophet emulation from Native Instruments that they released 15, 20 years ago, where that ended up, well, now you know. It's here on the Maschine Plus, rebranded as Polysynth. There's also a bass synth. I don't know what that one is based on, no pun intended. And plenty of other performance effects. Maschine effects you can see here. Yeah, pretty much all the production effects you could ever need. And I know from experience, these all sound really good. So both two really great machines, no doubt, and it's really hard to know which is best until you actually get your hands on them. But I think my primary choice here is going to be the Maschine Plus. One of the main reasons for this is that I'm already pretty heavily invested into the Native Instruments ecosystem. I have their complete package, the bundle, which contains many sound expansions, all of which are compatible and can be loaded onto the Maschine Plus, giving me thousands of sounds right out of the bat. I also have some of their hardware controllers which could be integrated with the Maschine Plus for a really nice DAWless live jamming setup. Unfortunately, I don't have any skin in the game for the MPC devices and sounds. I have nothing, so I'll be starting over from scratch. It could be quite expensive to buy all of the packs that I need and the virtual instruments. The Maschine Plus has a lot more physical controls, knobs, buttons than the MPC One, so that's something in its favor. Talking of the construction as well, the Maschine Plus is made of metal, at least the front plate is made of aluminium, whereas the MPC One is plastic. But the MPC One has a touch screen, I hear you say. Isn't that better? Well, I say no, not for me. I don't really like using the touchscreen interfaces on my musical instruments. I much prefer physical, tactile controls. I like a button that I can learn where it's located, press it, get a nice click, and then turn a knob to adjust the parameter of a sound. Also, my eyesight is not great, so that's another reason why I prefer physical controls over the touchscreen. Another interesting point that might be a bit silly perhaps, but it has influenced my decision, is that there are many more tutorials available on YouTube for the Maschine Plus compared to the MPC One. So I was able to get a really good feel for what it's like to work with the Maschine Plus, whereas with the MPC there was much more limited resources available. And after binge watching about 8 hours of Maschine Plus tutorials, I simply just have to get one now, otherwise it would be a complete waste of my time. Finally then, Native Instruments regularly have pretty nice sales with deep discounts, so that's a good opportunity to get some good deals on the software and the hardware. So I'll kind of hold out and see what comes up in the coming months. Hopefully a bit quicker than that. Okay, let's wrap this up. So that's my thoughts about doing some research. But as always, when you're researching a new keyboard or instrument, it's great to get some feedback from existing users or people doing the same research and thought process. So I'd love to hear from any of you that are in a similar boat to me, or in fact have any of these two instruments on my shortlist. Perhaps even there's something I've completely overlooked. So once again, let me know in the comments. Finally, do you own any of these two instruments? Let me know again in the comments. I'll try and get a feel for how popular they are. In fact, what we can do is post a poll over on my page, either with a choice, which one would you get if you could only choose one, or which one do you actually have, to get a gauge of how popular both of these two instruments are. Anyway, I've talked long enough. If you made it to the end of this video, congratulations and thank you so much. I know it was a bit talky, but sometimes I like to share the decisions that I'm making about which gear to buy for myself and feature here on the channel, and it's great to get some feedback from you during the process. I'll see you later. Cheerio.
Bye.